What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 302 of the How to Hardscape podcast, where we talk about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And on today's episode, we are joined by Glenn Curtis of Plantenance Landscape Group. Glenn has been in the business for 45 years and has a lot to share with us. We touch on his history in the business, how things have changed, including marketing, employees, and so much more. But before we get into today's episode, we want to thank our sponsors. Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for money off their services there. Patio SEO has hopped on board as a sponsor, and they are a leading marketing and brand building company in the hardscape industry. And if you don't know, this company is run by James Reed. We've had him on the podcast a couple of times, some of our more popular episodes, and he owns hardscape businesses across the country. And now you can have access to the same in-house marketing team that he has access to at patioseo.com. So if you're looking for a killer website, targeted ads, or data-driven strategies to grow, check them out at patioseo.com. And Knowledge Tree Consulting. George and Peter there are efficiency consultants in our industry, and I've had the privilege of having them both on one episode of the How to Hardscape podcast, and George multiple other times. Always great episodes, and I also got to sit down on a one-on-one with George and went through what they do for businesses, and I left that meeting with a lot of value, so I can't recommend them enough. If you want to learn more about what they do, go to knowledgetreeconsulting.com and get that conversation started with them today. And if you're looking for a software to dive into, check out the How to Hardscape headquarters software at hthheadquarters.com to help you budget, estimate, job costs, time track, schedule, employee management, courses, and so much more that you can use to train and onboard your employees. Check out the features at hthheadquarters.com. And without further ado, let's get into today's episode with Glenn. Today, we're joined by Glenn Curtis. He is the co-founder of Plantenance Landscape Group, 45 years in the business. Glenn, thank you so much for taking your time today and joining us here.
My pleasure. Looking forward to this.
I'm looking forward to get to know a little bit more about yourself and in your business here, but let's get started. Tell our audience a little bit more about you, yourself, how you got started in the industry, and what prompted you to start your own business in the industry.
That's a great question. I started when I was 60. I'm going to be 63. I started when I was 18, and my wife, who was then my girlfriend, I still remember vividly, actually not far from where I'm situated now. We were going to CEGEP, and I knew that I needed to do something. I wanted to be in something creative. I was kind of sort of learning what I really wanted to do. I had done photography. I was going to go and become a chef, and I just wanted to do something creative. And I also wanted to be an entrepreneur. I guess the business started with a bad mistake. And what I mean is we had a gentleman who lived out here. I used to see him every day. He started a maintenance business, lawn maintenance. He had a little blue Mazda. He was my age at that time, and everybody was envious. He was all over the place cutting grass with 3-4 guys and apparently making a good living. And I remember saying, I think I can do that. I know I could do that. So that's sort of my foray into the horticulture. And then we decided to start the business with a bad idea. Because my father was in marketing my whole life, sales and marketing, I always learned from him to be different. So when they zig, we zag. So I came up with an idea that I thought was brilliant that would bring me in a lot of customers, and that was vegetable garden maintenance. Not planting them. I figured, okay, he's cutting lawns in my area. I'll go after clients and I'll de-weed, and I'll be able to do that. It's not a lot of equipment, and I could start on a low budget because we didn't have any money at that time. And back then, again, no internet, no fancy computers. I mean, I really started almost like a caveman back then. And we actually made some brochures by hand, went to the local corner store, made photocopies, black and white, hand-colored every single one of them to get attention. And I hand-delivered them into an area where I still have clients, actually, oddly enough, from day one. And we found out quickly that it wasn't a good idea like I thought it was. The phone was ringing, but they wanted us to cut their lawn or if we could do other things around the house, but nobody was interested in the vegetable garden maintenance idea. So I basically turned my father-in-law, well, my now father-in-law, bought us a lawnmower. I used my dad's old piece of junk lawnmower. We went to Canadian Tire, bought coveralls, so we were kind of branded. We just wore blue coveralls, and I used his old Dodge Duster and pulled a rickety old trailer and started cutting lawns. And basically, it grew from there. I found I had a passion for it. I liked the business aspect. I liked the fact that I was outside, and I hired my sister, who's now my sister-in-law, and it really grew from there to where we are today, and our own facility, mainly focused on design build, but we have a division that we're growing called Private Garden or Horticultural Care. They just do gardens, maintain gardens, and they do all our lighting. So it was an interesting journey because there was no internet, there was no nothing.
I have lots of questions based on that sort
Yeah,
of growth period
sure.
and how your marketing plan has changed, especially getting into the digital age. Back then, you were doing maintenance. Do you still hold on to maintenance? Have you always held on to that maintenance throughout the years? And why have you?
Actually, yes, we have, and that's a very good question. So we used to cut lawns, and then we slowly started doing their gardens as well, and we started packaging it. Definitely, the pricing was way off. I remember when we started, we didn't have anybody to consult. We kind of just winged it, you know, $40 a month, whatever it was, and that was even really low for back then. We basically, again, from the cutting of the lawns, we basically started about 10 years in, we realized that for us, anyways, in our market, that there's not a lot of profit in just cutting the grass. It was a lot of work. And we started more getting into the design build or into the landscape aspect. I started doing correspondence courses. Again, didn't have internet to train me. There was no online courses. So I did correspondence actually through Guelph. And then I started researching different consultants out and different mentors and learning from them how they ran their business. But we found we really enjoyed doing that. We kept the maintenance because we felt it was a good tie-in. We still have it today. It's a division that we are trying to scale. Again, we call it private garden or horticultural care. So when we design and build, we usually offer an extended warranty up to lifetime if we design it, build it, and care for it. We also kept it, and I'm so glad we did because of the reoccurring revenue. To me, it's recession proof. And I know a lot of people that I know during COVID and all the excitement, they basically abandoned it to jump all into build. And we knew that bubble was going to burst. So I'm so glad we stuck with it because even like last year was pretty slow in terms of it was a lot more difficult to get work. The maintenance helps keeps the lights on, reoccurring revenue, consistent, and I would never drop it. I think that's a big mistake to drop the maintenance in. Again, when we cut grass, we only do the grass cutting if we do their gardens, and we actually sub it all out. We have a company that's all he does for us is cut the lawns. It's basically a loss leader for us, but it gets us in to get all the other work where it's really profitable. So it's a great division to have, and I would never get rid of it.
And so they do other things like lighting too, as well.
Yeah, so they're trained actually. I got trained actually by Inlight. I was one of the first ones to do it out here, and we realized that when you're doing lighting on projects, that it's good to have the people that do the planting to put in the lights because, especially on a new install, because they know what plants are going to be where. You want to avoid the shadowing on the plants, and you don't want someone to come in and dig later. So to run a thorough sort of efficient operation, we found it was best that they're all trained in lighting. They're able to install the plants and the lights simultaneous. It keeps our overheads down. It's actually making it much more profitable. We don't have to go back and move plants or move the lights later on. And also, in general, they're able to take care of it. So it's another option that our clients, when they come in and do the shrubs, they'll just make sure if there's a problem with the lights, they can fix the connections. But we found it was a really good move for us to have the same Softscape team do all the lighting simultaneous. If it's a new client, yes, we'll do the lighting even if we didn't do the gardens, but we found it would just work better with the dynamic of that team that they do both.
And I'm going to be jumping around here, so bear with
That's
me.
great.
Have you always been named Plantenance Landscape Group, or was there a rebrand somewhere in that time period?
I knew you were going to ask that question. That's a great question. So Plantenance, again, the always wanting to do things different. And again, with my with my sort of my family background in marketing. I came up with the name because I didn't want to have, we're out in Quebec, so it would be Paysages Glen or Glenn's Landscaping, just like I didn't want to have stuff all over the truck. So we wanted to be a little different. So instead of that, I came up with the name actually when I was going to CEGEP by just combining the word planning, and maintenance. So we came up with Plantenance. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but people, once they get it, they remember it. And also, it's funny, I had a client a couple of years ago ask me if Mr. Plantanacci was my father. So they figured I was Italian and my wife is, I'm not. And they figured that I inherited my father's business and that was my last name. So we just wanted something a little different and that was a little bit more memorable to be, again, to sort of not be part of that sea of sameness.
So about 10 years in, you start to get into design build.
Yeah.
And what did the industry look like back then? Was it, especially in your market, embracing the interlock, the retaining walls and all of that? Or was this a more difficult sell in your area?
It definitely was a difficult sell, really, when I started, only because of my age. I remember quoting on, I think my biggest job when I started with design build was like $30,000. And the guy was very concerned that I was too young to do the work. Paving stones and walls. I mean, when I started in design build, boy, I'm really aging myself now. I remember the Permacon brochure, it was called Montco back then. And they only had two styles of pavers, three, heritage, rustic, and Pevy Uni, and two colors. And it was very easy to sell. You were doing driveways and you were doing paths and you didn't have a lot of selection. Definitely become more complex, a little more interesting. I think there's so many products and so many ways to do things, but it was quite simple. We always started, we always worked with, if we don't plan, we don't build. So we really, from the beginning, were avoiding bid work. Okay, so we were trying to keep the customer with us. So when we do a design, we do give some of the money back if they build. But everything we did was with designing. I realized that it was the only way to run an efficient crew, even when we started. The old expression, which we still tell our clients, the fail to plan, plan to fail. Because I still don't know how guys do it. I give them credit to go into a job, throw clients some ideas, and then hopefully that what you told them matches their vision and they're going to pay for it. So we do everything on paper. We do the 3D imaging. We make sure that they're extremely clear and they love what they're going to get before we start even turning any soil or excavating. And that's how we create our budgets, is everything comes off of those design specs. But it was a lot different. It was a lot easier, I think, when I started. It was a lot less complicated. But it's challenging in a good way because there's so many products and so many things that you can do now, as you know yourself with your business.
I like that whole talk about at the beginning the vegetable garden maintenance and zigging while others are zagging, or vice versa. There, are there any other stories along your 45 years in business where you saw others doing one thing, you decided to go a different route, or perhaps a slightly different route to be able to differentiate the plantenance as opposed to other competitors in your market?
Again, even to this day, at least in my market, a lot of guys don't work with plans or they're working with sketches. The good news is a lot of cities now, if you want to build a new house out in Montreal and a lot of the cities, they won't approve the drawings for the house without a landscape plan now. But we did it to bring in the kind of, to be honest, this is a passion for us more than it's a business, and that's why we're becoming open book, because our team, they all love what they do. This is their passion, and we wanted to do more of those sort of turnkey projects. And we knew that the plans was the way in. Get the client to pay for the plan, show that they're serious, but also it's much cheaper to make changes on a piece of paper than it's on a job site. And a lot of guys up until recently still here don't work with drawings. And I could never understand that. Again, that fail to plan, plan to fail. So it's definitely something that we did in a way to differentiate ourselves, to be more creative element, that the clients could see their vision before we even do anything. Our biggest fear was always we'd go and do work. The client would come home and, hey, this is the most beautiful backyard I've ever done. And they walk around and go, I don't like it. and they've invested a lot of money into you. And I don't think you build a good reputation, whether you're right or wrong, if they are disappointed. So it's still not as many people designing as I would expect. I know in Toronto there seems to be a lot more, but again, it's the best way to control the job. It allows us to do accurate budgets. It allows us to phase jobs for clients. So a lot of our sales, because some of the jobs are fairly extensive, I mean, they can run hundreds of thousands into the millions. And it's allowed us to phase it, to give better estimates, more accurate estimates. And if we want to make a change, like I said, I would much rather do it on a piece of paper that the client approves than to do it on an active job site when everybody's frustrated. I felt it made the whole client experience better. So from day one, we were always into plan it first, bid off the plan, get the client to sign off on the plan. Is it flawless? No, but it sure avoids a lot of headaches.
You did mention open book, and I want to get to that. I also
Yeah,
want to get to your evolution in your roles and responsibilities in the business throughout the 45 years. Starting with today and working maybe backwards here, what are your roles and responsibilities today in the business?
right now, really, I mean, I'm sort of on my card, it says I'm the chief visionary officer. So basically, I'm steering the ship. I have the vision, and I'm always looking for ways to move the company forward. We're looking at different sort of spin-off businesses, like I said right now. Also, just to be a good leader to allow them to take over. Our goal is that our team that we have now, we're very transparent. I mean, they're in a meeting right now and they go over the numbers and they know everything where the company is because we want them to take over. I guess you could say to continue the legacy of the company. Okay, but I mean, for me, I also handle a lot of the marketing. I have a marketing team, but I kind of steer the ship. Again, my background, and I enjoy it. I think it's something I really enjoy is the creative ends with the marketing of the company. When I started, it was still like that. I handled a lot of the marketing, and not to the same degree, obviously. I don't do any designing. I used to do a little bit. That's why we started that separate design company. So we have three full-time designers and architects that work year-round, and we're trying to grow that end as well. We just signed a contract to take over designing for a couple of suppliers out here, so we're going to do all their designing. But it's something that basically I'm the visionary. I'm the one who's planning the course that we take, and slowly but surely, they told me that they're going to take over my office that I'm in now, and they'll let me have an office in the back if I want to come in as I get older and sit in the back and drool and make noise. And they want to run the company. So I'm very lucky I have good people to take it over. Don't
Awesome.
know if I answered your question exactly correctly, but
You got it. You nailed it. And so you're not in the field 24/7 today. So when
no,
did that happen in the evolution of the business where you started to get more and more out of the field, and who were you hiring to be able to do that?
probably I took myself out of the field. I came across that sort of proverbial decision that I needed to either work in my business or on my business. And I think it's probably at least 20, it's got to be at least 25 years ago, I pulled myself out of the field. I would go and do check on the jobs, get them started. But I slowly started bringing in people that I felt that some of the guys that's still with me, they've been with us, one of them at least now it's 36 years. So I allowed them to build up that responsibility to run things in the field. And we've learned over the years to delegate that responsibility down to the people in the field. And then again, that's why we have a culture of inclusion and of caring so that they know that if we do well as owners, so to speak, that they're going to do really well because we want everybody to succeed. And I think that's been a great sort of culture building for us and a way to get the right people. We give them the lead way to run the company because they know what's expected. Everything is systemized. We're heavily into processes. Everything's mapped out how they have to do everything. We have operating procedures. So it's allowed me to spend more time being on the inside and let them do their jobs. Another way I did that is we started about 8 years ago with something that we call a craftsman partnership program. So it's not really subcontracting. It's a lot different. It's even got its own logos and branding. So basically, these are people in most cases that have worked for us directly in the past. And it's almost like a dealership, if you will. So we do all the back end. It's our designs, it's our supervisors, it's our management, it's our plans, it's our marketing. We're their back office. And these are the guys that just love to build and they just want to do their job and they want a life. I didn't have a life growing up. They want their life back because they're families. And what we do is we also guarantee the payments to them. So there, if the client gives us trouble with the money, they're always guaranteed they're going to be paid. And it's worked very, very well. Also during the last 5 years, as you're probably aware, getting good people was very, very difficult. So we switched to this model to bring people into the company, and they've been very loyal to us. They do great work, and they love what they do, and everybody's really happy with that.
We want to take a break from today's episode to thank our sponsor, Cycle CPA. It's crucial to review your financial statements on a monthly basis so you can diagnose areas for improving your business's financial health early before they become significant issues. Too many contractors wait until the end of the year to review their financials as they file taxes, when it's often too late to take action to change the outcome. Cycle CPA not only handles bookkeeping and taxes, but they also ensure that you're armed with financial data on a monthly basis to make key business decisions. They offer benchmarking, cash flow forecasting, and assistance in developing targets for financial metrics. With their team of accountants specialized in the hardscape and landscape industry, they currently work with hundreds of companies in this field. Visit cyclecpa.com, and for $200 off, mention the How to Hardscape podcast. Now back to our episode. I want to talk about employees, and quite specifically the employee that's been with you 35 plus years, but really any employee that's been with you a long period of time. How have you been able to retain an employee for that period of time? And do they have the same role or a similar role to when they started to what they're doing today?
Yeah, they do in some ways, yes. Again, they're making sure that things are done right in the field. They're doing supervisory roles. Some of them are doing part-time sales as well because of their experience. But how do I keep them? I mean, to be very honest, I realized very early on that I'm not in the landscape business. I'm in the people business, and that means internal and external for the client. And it's a matter of, again, that inclusion, taking really good care of them, being very clear on how things are to be done, processes and systems for everything. And I guess it's the culture we've built. I mean, we do a lot of things together. We take really good care of them. And they know that we succeed as a team, that if we do well, I always make jokes to them over the years that if you come into work and you see that I'm driving a Lamborghini and I'm wearing a nice suit and I seem to be traveling a lot and you guys are struggling, then you're in the wrong place. If we succeed, they succeed. And it's worked well. I mean, some of my staff just got their first house or they bought themselves their first car. And it's just something that I'm into people. My wife as my partner is really into people. And we want to make sure they're well taken care of because you can buy the best tools, the best equipment. And I learned very early on, but without the great people, nothing gets done. The best tools don't do their job. So I think it's being focused on people.
So when you hire somebody, do you provide them sort of like a career path at Plantenance and show them what they can do within the business if they want to, strive for bigger and better things within the business? Or at what point do you start to talk to them about that?
When I still involved in doing some of the interviews, we have a lady in our office who's slowly taking over, also doing interviews and so forth, but I'm always involved. We actually do a lot of screening in the interviews to see if they sort of, again, another thing that I learned that I've heard people talk about on your podcast many times, but is skills I can train, attitude I can't. And we do offer a lot of professional development. So we have programs where we'll train them, we get them certified. Actually, I have a lot of them that have been certified through Landscape Ontario's programs. For example, one of my designers is the first in Quebec to be a CLD, a certified landscape designer, through I think it's the Canadian Nursery Landscape Association. So we train them, we invest in them, so they invest back in the company, and that's been really, really important to us. And yes, we have a career path. We're just redoing everything again, but they can see how they can advance, what kind of skill sets they need to advance. I think again, it's all about the proper communication and the clarity of where people are, where they can go. And again, that's why we spend a lot of time hiring, only because we want people that really love to do this. I mean, this is for the wrong person, this is a really bad job. It's tough, it's not easy, it's crazy hours. And the people we have, they just love there to be outside. They like to create. And I think it's been that screening to get the right kind of people with the right attitude that's been successful for the company growing.
Going back, what was the first sort of overhead salary or non-labor producing person that you brought on, salary, wage, whatever it might be, that you brought on to Plantenance, and why was it that shoe that you filled there?
You mean bringing in people that aren't generating revenue in the
Yeah,
field?
not in the field.
Overhead, like you said, administrative. That, again, my wife and I have handled in the past a lot of that. I'd say that was probably, that's actually a great question. That was probably when I brought in someone to act as a supervisor to just check on the projects, even working with our craftsman partners. We have people that go out and make sure the quality's there. I mean, people are buying that from us, the quality, making sure the designs are being executed. But I think probably a long time ago, at least 20 years ago, I started bringing in people to do. I know I started realizing where my strengths were and what I'm really worth my pay, if you will, to do. And we get people that are better than me. And honestly, I try to hire people that are better and smarter than me that I learned from them. So probably at least 20 years ago, I started bringing people slowly on a part-time basis and now full-time to be managing in the field so that I could focus when I do best. I think everybody sort of has their calling and what they're really good at. So like there's guys here that started out just as doing being an installer to they're now running the crews in the field. The gentleman who is officially had also a part-time company, he's actually here now doing supervising with us, and he's been in business for 30 years. But he loves what he does. He has the knowledge, and I encourage those kind of people. It's worth every penny that I paid them because I'm generating in terms of profitability a lot more than what I'm paying them. A lot of guys I know are hesitant to pay really well. We want it to always be known as the opposite, that we pay them very well, we take good care of them, we treat them like people, we're a team, and it's worked really, really well for us. But about 20 years ago, I'd say, if I'm thinking about it, that we started sort of delegating out more managing positions or administrative positions. We're heavy on administration, but it's because of the way that we're set up in the field with these partners. But it's worked really well. And again, we know our numbers, so it's all built into the overhead recovery.
And I love talking overhead recovery, so we can definitely
Yeah,
get
I
into
know.
that
So
maybe
do
in the
I.
future.
So do I.
So I guess I asked that to ask you, was it a difficult decision back then to take on that overhead person? Or was it just like super obvious, like this is the direction we needed to go and this is going to take time off my plate? So it was a very simple thing to do.
I'm still struggling with some of that today. Some of the consultants, have pointed out that I'm still wearing too many hats. When you've grown something from nothing, and it's been a long journey. It's certain things are hard to let go. I'm a perfectionist too, which doesn't help. That's why with my team now, we've instigated a 85% rule that if it's 85% done to what I would like, that we let it go, and it's actually worked out really well. Otherwise, we go through the lack of a better expression, analysis paralysis. They'll put something on my desk, and like right now, they're redoing our whole sales pipeline process and our pre-screening of customers. And they just ask me now to look at things to say, what do I think, to lead them and guide them, but they're making decisions. Was it hard? Very difficult. Still is difficult. But I've always looked at the cost benefit. In other words, yes, I pay really good, I pay well to good people. I would rather that because it's always paid off. I used to try when I started to not to pay as little as possible, but you definitely get what you pay for. It was actually making more work for me, more problems, more hassles. So salaries is something that I'm proud of, that they're paid well with great benefits that a lot of guys in my industry don't even offer, but it's actually worked out really, really well. I'd look at what I'm going to get out of it, what kind of time I'm saving, and what I'm really looking at is the cost of opportunity. If I had to do that job, what's it really costing the company versus getting someone who's probably better at than I am, and they're doing a great job? It's self-financing to pay people well.
And you did mention open book and your transition to becoming open book. Was that more so a decision to put accountability and ownership on your employees to help them make decisions in your business so that you can be more and more and more hands off? Or what was that decision to becoming open book driven by?
For that reason, yes, I started researching open book probably my third or fourth year. I'd heard about it, and again, I didn't have any internet. I remember going to McGill's library actually and starting researching it in books and how it would work. It's funny that you when you're asking that because thank God my wife feels the same way. I never felt anything different, but that people that help us succeed should also benefit. I just I feel it's the right thing to do. I never felt comfortable. I know a lot of guys in the business that, they basically run their people in the ground and they think that their benefits or their bonuses is the fact that they get paid on time. And I realized a long time ago that you're only as good as the people you have. Customers benefit when they're really happy at what they do. We've always had this mentality of sharing with them and inclusiveness and having them be part of something. And when it goes really well, like, we won a lot of awards for the work, we compliment them, we promote them based on that because it's them who achieved those awards. I didn't do it. I'm guiding them, but I'm just sort of a leader position right now. It was very hard. It wasn't a hard decision to share with people. And looking at open book, we've slowly are transitioning to it. So in the last 3 years now, we've invited everybody in our leadership team. We actually call them a success team. Some of the designers as well are part of it. So twice a week, we look at all the numbers. We look at the sales. We look at any red flags, problems we're having, and they're involved in every major decision of the company as they're doing in the meeting room right now. It's the greatest thing we ever did.
You have mentioned your wife. She's also a co-founder. You work together.
Yeah.
How have you split up roles and responsibilities in the business, but especially decision making together? How do you juggle that with one another, especially if you have a disagreement on a decision that needs to be made?
Yeah, you used the word split up there, and I thought, is he talking split up my marriage? I say, don't say that. I'm in trouble. First of all, they know my guys really know who the big boss is. I basically always tell them I just work here. But that being said, uh, you know what? I think that it happened naturally, but I think if I had to give advice to somebody, it's having defined roles. And she does her job. Like she's not in my office; she's in her own office. We get along great, but she's really, really great at what she does with the finances and the accounting. And she does what she does, and we don't sort of cross over. I deal with the guys in the field when I have to. I do some of the sales, which I still love to do as well. I just enjoy it. And it's a matter of having defined roles and having the confidence that she does her job to the best of her ability and I do the same. So that's I think been the success to getting along and sustaining and again not being divorced after we've actually started the business together. So we've been together now. It's going to be 45 years, which is hard.
For sure. So if you do come across a decision where, especially you with the experience in the field, maybe you want something in the business, a piece of equipment or anything, or even like a new employer or something like that, and she's so in tune with the numbers, and you bring that to her, and she says it just doesn't make sense with what we're looking at. How do you two kind of negotiate that between one another to get to a resolution, whether it's in the future you do it or it's something you do decide to act on immediately?
So if it's something to do with numbers, again, that's what I mean about no crossover. If I'm saying, we'd like to buy that new excavator, she will really crunch the numbers. Also, my accountant is very involved in that. And we just hired another gentleman who actually is starting that has an accounting background to sort of be like a controller. So I let them make the final decisions, even though I'd love to have my toys like everybody else, but the numbers don't lie. We'll look at it. Yes, I'll have my feedback, but at the end of the day, she's not hesitant to say, look, the numbers just don't support it. I don't think it's a good idea. Just like when it's in marketing, marketing ideas, or I want to invest in some marketing. We had a meeting about it last night. I still bounce why I want to do it, but those decisions I leave with her. When it's decisions with new hires, there's something in the field, she leaves that to me. I think it's having very clear job descriptions, defined roles, and not crossing over. Do we always agree? No, but at the end of the day, we have to make decisions and move forward. And also, a lot of the decisions again are now put out to the whole team. Like when we were looking at buying out another company, we sat with our team, looked over the numbers, and said, "This is what we're thinking of doing. Here's why." And sort of majority wins in those cases. If most of them don't want to do it, they think it's a bad decision. We try and we'll change course. If it doesn't work, we move on and try again. Or if it's not gonna cost the company that we're gonna lose the company, it's not that major of a decision. They're involved in every decision, but when it comes to finance or what she does, I don't cross. I listen to what her feedback says or what her advice is, and vice versa with what I handle.
We want to take a break from today's episode to talk about marketing. Are you looking to take your hardscape business to the next level? Well, this is brought to you by Patio SEO, the leading marketing and brand building company in the hardscape industry. And if you don't know, this company is run by James Reed, who owns multiple hardscape businesses across the country. And here's the kicker. You're not just getting access to any team. You're getting access to the very team that helped grow James's own companies, plus hundreds of others in the industry. Whether you need a killer website, targeted ads, or data-driven strategies to grow, Patio SEO has got you covered. They've been in your shoes and know exactly what works. We've had James Reed on the podcast a couple of times, and they're some of our more popular episodes, talking about branding, talking about how he's built companies across the country. And with that, he needs lots of leads, which means he's had to perfect his branding and marketing. And now you can have access to that same in-house team that he has access to for his own hardscape company. So if you're ready to build your brand and see some serious growth, check them out at patioseo.com. That's patioseo.com, or follow James on Instagram at road to 100ms. That's road to 100ms. Let's get your business the attention it deserves. Now back to the episode. Marketing, another topic that I really like to talk about. From brochures that you hand colored to where you are today. At what point did you hop on, getting a website for the business? Was that, as soon as kind of websites began to emerge, or how soon were you on that? How much has the digital side of things in your business helped you with marketing in your business at Plantenance Group?
Well, quite a bit, obviously. I mean, when there was not only no internet, no social media. It's funny, we were reminiscing, if you will, about that a couple of months ago about how we were getting customers when we started. And basically, I remember it was actually quite simple and easy. I'd go to the local little tiny newspaper, the local municipal newspaper, run an ad for $45 in the service directory, and I had plenty of work. And it was nowhere near as complicated. Now we have marketing teams but it's changed a lot. Again, repeat part of your question. Sorry.
Yeah. So how soon did you embrace, say, like websites when they first kind of came on the scene, especially like social media when Instagram first came out? Were you quick to embrace those, and how has those helped your business in terms of the digital marketing side of things?
Definitely significantly helped. I started with websites very early on, actually. Again, because of my sort of background with marketing and my family and my father in sales and branding and marketing, and it's what I love to do myself. We were even one of the first companies. I mean, it's easy for me to say, but I can tell you it's the truth that we had T-shirts made, and we were all in the same shirt. And I remember getting bothered at suppliers like, "Oh, come on, what's with this? With all the T-shirts the same?" And then there was no skinning trucks. I had magnets. I had a guy who actually hand painted and he wrote our logo. I actually still kept it. It's on my filing cabinet in front of me, but I had magnets put on the trucks, and I started realizing the importance of branding way, way back. I had a website when nobody really had websites. It wasn't very good, but I knew the power of having sort of a storefront 24/7 to sell what we do. I remember even doing emails when it was first coming out and learning how to email clients estimates, which was really strange. You're making me feel very old. I realize it's like caveman stuff here, man. But now I enjoy it. I find it sometimes very complicated, but Definitely, we embrace social media. I mean, we put a lot of money and effort into Instagram now, YouTube channels. We still do some direct mail marketing only for our maintenance division because we go after larger homes. We also call it estate care. So we actually do mailers in specific areas and keep targeting direct mail. And we do a lot of marketing. We went back big time to going back and to doing more networking, uh, other architects, developers, and we have a nice big database now over the years that we've collected of customers who are potentially prospects, and we remarket them like crazy now, sending out email blasts to newsletters that we started producing every Friday. So we've really embraced all the technology, if you will, but marketing and branding is a huge part of our business. I mean, I know a lot of guys when the going gets tough, they cut back on their marketing dollars. I increase it. It's about being the expert and being sort of top of mind to clients. I don't do Instagram as a way to show. It's not really for advertising. It's more to let clients see what we can do and sell them a lifestyle and show them that we're an expert, or the reputation that we've built for 40 years. I mean, a lot of guys can't say that, or 45 years. We use the social media as a way to build brand awareness and to basically market share. I don't advertise much with it anymore. I stopped. I use AdWords. So like everybody else, probably I'm heavily into the digital media, and doing the new YouTube channel is something that's brand new to us. Going out and filming behind the scenes, and it's more to let them see who we are as people, so they sort of develop almost an attachment to who we are and call us, because let's face it, people love to do business with people they like. So we want them to know who we are. And if people look at our Megan minutes, our little behind the scenes, we have fun in them. We're basically showcasing the people and the people that do the design, so the clients are already comfortable when they call, that they know who we are. So it's huge for us.
I notice in the industry it's more difficult for, the longer somebody's been in business to embrace the digital side, because it's like the traditional word of mouth, we're good, and if we need to we'll do some advertising, but like embracing a SEO rich website and investing time into that, or like a YouTube channel is like the biggest thing that, it's like biggest opportunity, but not a lot of people are doing it, and especially those bigger companies that have been in business for a while. But would you say it's your just background and interest in marketing that has allowed you to, what, we're going to do this, and I see the value in it?
Yeah, actually, because I enjoy it, and because I did see the value in it. I know a lot of people that, you are right, that have been in business like us for a long time. I hear a lot of them online too saying, I go all on word of mouth, and I don't believe in this day and age that that's really going to be possible to sustain. I mean, what happens when people stop referring you? I see the value in it. I enjoy it too, so that's a big part of it. But I've always sort of invested time and effort into trying to be a little bit more forethinking in our marketing campaigns. Just like skinning trucks, we started a long time ago, as I said, about branding the crews and making sure with the way they're dressed to the way we present everything to our clients. I mean, we always made sure that every piece of paper, everything that came out of here, any form was well branded, and that there was the marketing behind it. We're even now looking at trying something different, which we've never done, is doing a little bit of radio spots. Never did it. We're looking at a new area where there's a new development, and we're thinking we're going to hit with the radio. But see, even that, we're looking at doing radio spots, but not pre-recorded, but have the announcer sort of talk about what we do and who we are, because we're going after the high end clientele. But I think you're right. It's mostly that I've sort of adopted it because I love it, and I see the power of it.
Glenn, I knew we would be short on time here with how much I enjoy talking to you about all this. So I do want to be aware of the time that you've given us already and kind of
No
get
problem.
down to our last few questions here. And we still have the sales process. I'd love to have you back on and go through your sales process
Absolutely.
and qualifying clients. But I ask this to every business owner that comes on the show. This is a horror story from your time in business. It could be just like a difficult thing in the field that you experience or with clients or anything like that, just to help our contractors just starting out or early in business to let them know what can happen in business and maybe put some guardrails in place to prevent it from happening to them. But Glenn, do you have a horror story that you'd want to share with us?
How much time do you have? No, I'm just kidding. You know what? I do and I don't, but I do have some in that. Horror stories, I usually look at them as learning experiences because every bad thing that's happened, it's like we do with every job. We do what we call after act assessments. We look at it, analyze it. Why did it go well? Why didn't? And one that comes to mind is I never used to take the time to set up the job ahead of time in terms of calling for the locates. And I remember when we first started out, we hit a gas line. I still remember that. I hit twice, I've hit gas lines, but we didn't call for anything. And I remember being called by my foreman, and he said, "You better get over here." And I still remember because it felt like I was in a movie. I was driving around the corner. There must have been 20 fire trucks. There were firemen everywhere. There were police. The street was cordoned off. And all I remember is coming around the corner, and I heard one of the guys say, "So who's in charge?" And all my guys pointed to me. And I was really embarrassed because they were working on fixing this line. And what I learned from it was I didn't call it in. So I knew, and we didn't have a lot of money back then. And I knew I was going to get a big, big bill, which I did to repair it. So that was kind of a horror story. I can tell you we learned real quick that to this day we have a process that immediately, if we even think that the client is going to sign, we just go and ask for all the locates so it's all ready to go. They're not allowed to go in the field in their package unless they have all the locates. But that was very embarrassing. But to me, that was a horror story because I thought that was the end of our company. I didn't know if it was going to cost me 50,000. All I knew was they made me sign and said, "You're going to get a bill." And the client, also the homeowner, was pretty upset, as rightfully so, that I had to abandon half the neighborhood because I didn't do my job properly. That's probably the worst thing that's happened. Or if you want to look at it as a horror story, I thought you might get a kick out of this because my staff did. When I started in snow removal, I had a brand new truck, a dump truck, a brand new Fisher plow back then. My wife was with me. I got a call after plowing for 40 hours to do a one shot. And I got a little greedy and I thought, all right, 40, $50, I'd love it. And essentially I went out, did it. It was not, there was no, it was uneventful until on my way home. I didn't sleep a lot and I went through a micro sleep. And all I remember is I was driving, I saw a stop sign, she was with me. I saw a police car parked at the side of the road, and for a split second, I fell asleep. And unfortunately, when I woke up, I plowed into the back of a police car writing a ticket at the side of the road. And there were two officers in there. They were not very happy. I pushed the trunk in. But when my team found out about that, to this day, I still haven't lived that one down. But I did a nice job on a police car by being greedy to go out and do a one shot, but because I didn't sleep. So that's something that I've never lived down, but was pretty embarrassing. And to make it worse, I remember they asked me to wait because they have to call another squad car because they can't do their own report. And I started falling asleep again. And I remember my now wife, my business partner, getting mad at me because she thought I was going to get arrested, that they'd think I was intoxicated and that I couldn't stay awake. But no damage to my truck, but the police car didn't look very good when I was finished with it. So it was kind of embarrassing. And I actually wrote about that in one of my columns once. But to me, that's a bit of a horror story as well.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing those there. Do you still
No problem.
do snow clearing?
We actually do snow removal, only commercial. We got out of residential about 15 years ago. The writing was on the wall that, especially out here in Quebec, the prices they're charging the same essentially that I did with a truck, be using blowers and tractors. I'm next to one of the biggest companies around here. I think he has 10,000 accounts. But we do commercial snow and ice, and I do it all brokering it. Again, with my program, I have great partners, but I get the sales, I do all the dispatch and handle all the behind the scenes, and they do all the snow clearing. So I park all my equipment. I don't abuse it, but I still stay in it. It's just really to sort of keep the lights on. It's good cash flow in the winter. We do stay busy with designing, but obviously it's the downtime. So we did keep the snow removal. And again, I'm glad I kept it because, and also we realized by subbing that really where the money is, it's not the contracts, it's all what we call the residuals. It's hauling snow, it's salting. That's where the money is. It's kind of like on maintenance, right? It's not the cutting of the grass, it's the top dressing, the flowers, and all the extra stuff that you get. That's where the money is. But yes, I still do it. I don't enjoy it. It's the worst part of the business, but it's a necessary evil, I think, to most companies.
Definitely.
Do you
Uh,
do snow?
I do not. I do this in the winter, basically. And
Great. Don't
we'll,
ever do it.
I did it for one season. I'll never do it again
You did it really with trucks or tractors?
with trucks. Yeah.
That's a lot. It's a tough business.
Yeah. It's not something that I enjoy either.
No, and it really can mess up. We use the winter. We call it CIT, continuous improvement tasks. We start in the fall and we go through a whole list of things that we need to improve and be better at, and that's what they're working on now and rejigging the company's processes and systems. That's what we do in the winter, kind of like what I think you do.
That's, I guess, yeah, especially with talking with people like you in the winter. This is my continuous improvement here for sure.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate that.
We want to take a break from today's episode to thank our sponsor, Knowledge Tree Consulting. They are efficiency consultants in the industry with 35 plus years of industry experience building Oriole landscaping in Toronto, which they are completely hands off at this point. George and Peter have been on the podcast before, and George, on multiple occasions now, I've personally leaned on him to help with the How to Hardscape headquarters software and how we can maximize the efficiency of user experience. And I know the guys at DTE Landscaping, Chuck and Jeffrey, who we've also had on the show multiple times, have hired them on in the past. Check out their consulting services, peer groups, and events that are coming up on their website, knowledgetreeconsulting.com, or check them out on Instagram at joinktc. Now back to our episode.
Anybody that you'd want to give a shout out here on the podcast, whether they've helped you along the way in business, you've looked to them for inspiration, advice, mentors, people in general at all, anybody that you'd want to give a shout out here along the way in your journey.
You know, one gentleman that really helped us, he was brought in as a consultant way back, and unfortunately he's no longer alive, but I got him through Landscape Ontario, was a gentleman named JP Lamarche. I don't know if you ever heard of him. And he was the first one to open my eyes about the value of knowing your numbers. And that's probably the most best piece of advice that I would give to anybody is to know your numbers. And it also made me appreciate the value of time and maximizing revenue. He came in and made us understand, how to read a P&L, how to understand the balance sheet. But he also dissected our operation because we couldn't figure out where the money was going. We thought we were profitable, and he's the first one actually that introduced me to what overhead was. I remember because I was frustrated because he was telling me, are you recuperating overhead? And I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to get that money. I'm already thinking I'm too expensive. And he's the one that really opened our eyes to the numbers part of running a business. And he was fantastic. He even had a software that he had put out at one point to do your numbers for you. You said you heard of JP Lamarche?
I've heard of the name before. I don't know where though.
Through Landscape Ontario, if anything.
Okay, gotcha.
He was active on Landscape Ontario, did a lot of seminars for Landscape Ontario. And actually, his family owns a business out here in Quebec. They own a landscape business, Ottinger, I think it's called. And also someone that I really look up to that I still sort of consult with and do business with is anything that Mark Bradley does. I think you've had podcasts with him as well. I think that guy is really sort of, we look up to him as a mentor, and I think the things he does for the industry are fantastic. I think he's done a lot, and he's very knowledgeable. And just like I said to you, you're doing great things for the industry as well. You're bringing people aware of the struggles and making a lot of guys feel that they're not alone and we're all going through the same thing.
Definitely. Thank you there, Glenn. And you did mention so knowing your numbers and thinking your price higher than your market. If you talk to somebody and they think that based on their numbers, they're priced higher than what their market can bear, how do you talk them through that? Or how did you at Plantenance Group be able to justify a higher price than what your market could bear or what you thought it could bear?
Well, as you know yourself, I mean, when we price something using, let's say, software like LMN, we call it production pricing. We know that obviously we're working with, which we still feel, it's sort of the industry benchmark, the 10% net, which is not a lot. And we know that that's what it costs. I mean, we train all our team that we're selling our projects on value, not price. As I like to quote Warren Buffett, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And it costs what it costs. So that's why I think like what you're doing with your software is so valuable, because it's not a matter of, I mean, if you're higher than the market, there's got to be a reason. And in my market, it's a lot of guys don't know their numbers. They're great craftsmen, they're not business people. And they do this square footage pricing, which really doesn't work. But when I get a client that's telling me I'm more expensive, we started transitioning 3 years ago, 4 years ago, to what we call transparent pricing. So I break it out line item. I don't hide what our projected profit is supposed to be. If it goes well, I let them see all the costs, my overhead recovery. They see everything. And I think it makes them a lot more comfortable because they know that you know the numbers. And frankly, when I do get outbid on a job, I think we got outbid on a big job last year. And I said to the client, look, I'm looking at my break even and they're below my break even. We all pay basically the same for labor, materials. Our overheads essentially are the same. And yet, how is it possible that he can come below my cost? It's not feasible. So we won't even touch a job like that. It's not a matter of if we're in line with the industry. Again, it costs what it costs. And I think 10% is really an extremely fair margin to try to hit, if you can even hit that. I don't know now in the industry. I know that I read statistically that I think I read it about a month ago in a trade magazine that the average margin now that companies are hitting is about 3.8%. That's really bad. So I think the pricing in the market in relation to the market is really more that other companies or the competition doesn't know their numbers. And that's why, again, I like to give information and help other people, because I think if we all know how to make money or what you're actually making on a job, that we'll all be better paid, we'll get better compensation for what we do. It'll make the industry a better place. Because I do think we're not really valued in what we do, and we don't get a proper pricing. When I see the hourly rates that some guys charge, it makes no sense to me.
Glenn, what's a struggle that you have right now in your business, or something that you're working on getting through in your business?
Right now, a big thing that we are changing is our whole, what we call our creative process. We always, we were doing sort of the linear designs. We use Dynascape actually and been using it for years, but we do the linear design. And then we go from the design, we prepare a 3D, what we call a virtual walkthrough. But we're reversing it now. We're actually starting with the virtual design. So we're reversing the whole process. So my team is now finishing up a full training on new software, SketchUp, using something called, I think it's called Enscape. So we're starting with, it's a model that I learned from an American company. And I think with the idea that we're doing it is it's going to lower the sales cycle. We find that a lot of people, even though they're assigned a designer at our company and they work with them on doing their budgets, they work with them as their landscape investment advisor, they work as an efficiency coordinator for our clients, so they stay with them the whole way. We found that you can spend hours discussing the drawings, but when you have a technically sort of detailed linear drawing, they really don't understand it. And it was harder to sell, and it was getting more difficult to sell 100, 200, $500,000 jobs. So we're reversing the whole process to start with the visual, because everybody knows what they like when they see it. And just to show them something and they can say, I love it or I don't. And then we're going to go to the concept design or to the linear design. So it's been a challenge because there's a lot of retraining. but I think it's going to finance itself because we want to get more designs done in the same time frame. And I think we can add 20-30% more designs into the department, which will obviously bring up our revenue and our profitability.
Glenn, what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning, going back 45 years, or business or personal related? But what's one thing you know now that you wish you knew from the very beginning?
I think, as I referenced before, I wish I understood numbers, and I wish I was tracking that from the beginning, because it would have saved a lot of hassles and a lot of looking at why we don't have any money in the bank account and why we seem to be broke all the time, even though we thought we priced it right. And I really wish back when I started that I understood, or I had an appreciation of systems and processes. That's been the biggest thing for us. We're super heavy on systemization. I mean, even our maintenance reports, we're almost paperless right now. We do with everything with tablets for the maintenance reports to communicating with clients. So we just built a portal for our clients to see where they're at in jobs and the communication. But I wish I understood systems and processes. I wish I knew about how important numbers were to understand. And I wish I understood better the value of time. Because we realize that we have 1,500 roughly in Quebec anyways, 1,500 production hours per team member. And we realize the cost of opportunity. Going over budget and you slowly lose potential to do other work. And when we started realizing the value of time and maximizing revenue per hour, we started noticing that the profitability went way up. I wish I knew that. It would have saved me probably the first 10 years of struggling.
Glenn, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. And I'd love to have you back on again because we have so much more to talk about here.
I would love to do that. Thank you again for having me on. It was great. And again, for you to keep up the great work you're doing.
Thank you, Glenn. Where can our audience go find out more about you, yourself, Plantenance Group? Where do you want to send them to?
You can go, we're just putting up a new website, but to www.plantenance.com. And I think on Instagram, it's Plantenance_landscapes. And we have a new YouTube channel, but it's all accessible through the new webpage. And they can reach out to me if they ever want as well. They can reach to me at glenn@plantenance.com.
Glenn, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. If you're looking for a software to dive into, we have the How to Hardscape headquarters software, which will help you budget, estimate job costs, time track, schedule, and so much more, including our course library that you can use to assign courses like the interlocking installation course, the segmental retaining wall course to your employees to train and onboard, or even create your own courses, think safety training courses and so on, to be able to train and have documentation of that training for your employees. If you want to learn more, go to hthheadquarters.com or send me a message at How to Hardscape on Instagram. And before we leave you, we want to say thank you to our sponsors. Cycle CPA. If you're looking for bookkeeping, accounting, CFO services, reach out to Cycle CPA at cyclecpa.com. Let them know How to Hardscape sent you for money off their services there. PatioSEO.com. And now you know Patio SEO can take your hardscape business to the next level. James Reed and his expert team have built a reputation on success, not just for their own companies, but for hundreds of others just like yours. So don't wait. Visit PatioSEO.com to learn more and get started. But also be sure to follow James's journey on Instagram at Road to 100 M's. That's Road to 100 MS for behind the scenes tips and insights. And I do recommend checking that out and following along to that. Ready to build your brand? Patio SEO is here to help you every step of the way. And Knowledge Tree Consulting. George and Peter there are efficiency consultants in our industry, and I've had the privilege of having them both on one episode of the How to Hardscape podcast, and George multiple other times. Always great episodes, and I also got to sit down on a one-on-one with George and went through what they do for businesses, and I left that meeting with a lot of value, so I can't recommend them enough. If you want to learn more about what they do, go to knowledgetreeconsulting.com and get that conversation started with them today. And we look forward to meeting you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.